On the last breakdown, we analyzed a really cool hand between Mustafa Canit and Charlie Carroll, where Charlie ends up folding kings on the river when Mustafa 3-barrels with 10-8 suited, 6-handed for a 25k high roller. Mustafa makes it straight on the river. Charlie somehow sees that Mustafa is strong and folds. If you guys want to see that hand, click up there. Now we got to know what you guys had to say.
So I'm going to tell you.
All right.
First all, Clemofish, which is a cool name.
Did you say first all?
I don't know what I said.
Is that a new thing? First
I'm
all?
just trying to pronounce Clemofish over here.
All right, Clemofish.
Give me a break.
A delicious Hawaiian fish.
He says, Canit shrugs off multi-million-dollar pots, but doesn't have the spare change for glasses that aren't bent to all hell. Weird.
Well, Canit's style in general might be considered a bit weird. Case in point, the shirt he's wearing.
I mean, my God.
It's quite a shirt. It's quite a shirt, I'll say that. His mustache is quite a mustache.
Maybe he's like super fashion forward, and like 30 years from now, people are gonna be like, that guy knew what was going on. Look at that dude.
That happens.
It does.
I know all about that.
The stars are incredible.
Yes, they remind me of space.
Yeah. All right, moving on. That was just a funny one. Here's more strategy level stuff. All right.
Do that.
Pedro Almeida says, his bet size on the river makes it very hard to call. From a pure value perspective, that bet size doesn't make sense. I don't think you will get many calls from overpairs. I don't think Canit even thinks Charlie has an overpair, which tells me that he must put him on a 6, which I can only think 3 combos would be possible, ace-6, king-6, 6-5. If you're hoping to get paid with that size bet, only that narrow range would possibly pay you. In my opinion, he should have just bet over half the pot.
Certainly, bet sizing has something to do with this, as Charlie says in an interview later. I don't think Charlie ever has king-6, first of all, and also it's more than 3 combos with all those hands. And he usually doesn't have 6-5, and usually not ace-6 either. I don't think it's really a 6 he's trying to get paid off with. He's trying to look polarized so he can get heroed.
Right. So Charlie can have pocket pairs that are just one pair of hands that are going to call. That's what I think it's more about. I would say pocket 7s, but that's a set, so it can't be that one. I guess it's a full house, right?
Pocket 8s.
Pocket 8s, there we go.
Stuff
Things
like that. Anything is kind of similar to aces. Any pocket pair is kind of similar to aces because Mustafa is not usually going to be betting the middle of his range that size.
Right.
So it's more of a polarizing bet than trying to get called by a 6.
Absolutely. So interesting, though. It's a good comment.
It is.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Finally, SD Bolts 858 says, didn't Carroll just give Canit the chance to draw out on him? I mean, good fold, but wouldn't it have been better to apply pressure early and avoid the suck out later? It wouldn't have been a huge pot, but Carroll would have won.
You take this one.
Okay, you're such a guy.
I know.
All right. While all that is kind of true, Kings is such a valuable hand. When Carroll decides to call with it pre-flop instead of re-raise, he's playing it for a particular reason. He's playing it to bluff catch against Canit, right? So he wants Canit to be just barreling into him, and he gets to call with a hand that's way underrepresented. So if at any point you raise just to try and take it down right now so you don't get sucked out on, you're kind of killing the value of kings a bit here. They show down beautifully. Now the fact that Charlie is able to figure out when he's behind and when he's ahead makes it even better to play it this way. Even though, yes, it means sometimes we lose a pot and it hurts, we're going to win big pots a whole lot more of the time. The way to win the most chips is to play kings more like this than to play them to shut things down and get the hand over with, especially on a relatively not wet board, I would say.
Yeah, to be fair, we did say a 3-bet would have been fine pre-flop.
Absolutely.
And even raising on the flop would have been fine, but they would have not been to end the hand.
Right.
Those would have been for value, and that's a key difference here. We don't want to have such a huge hand and just end it. That's kind of like a guy at your local poker club putting in 40 blinds with pocket jacks and saying, I didn't want to see a flop.
Right.
Then it might as well be deuce 3 offsuit.
Right, exactly. So we're raising pre-flop or on the flop if we're going to do that with kings to make the pot bigger, not to get a fold. So actually, I think however Charlie ends up playing this hand, he's going to lose it, I think. Except maybe if he somehow moves in on the turn, which he's never going to do.
No.
Because Canit's going to call a pre-flop raise, I think. He's going to flop a flush draw, and it's going to be really hard to get him to fold.
Yeah. So I guess Charlie saved some money in that way. He might have busted in this hand had he 3-bet pre-flop.
It's possible. Yeah, it's very, very possible. Yeah, actually. So that's kind of cool.
That being said, that 3-bet would have been fine. It would have been a fine play for sure.
And a raise on the flop would have been okay too, but again, not to kill the hand, just to make the pot bigger.
Yeah, it's results oriented to say that Charlie played this hand poorly because I think Charlie played this hand masterfully.
Absolutely. This is why Charlie's so good.
Yeah.
One of the reasons.